Summary of Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if your life depended on it. By Chris Voss, with Tal Raz. Chapter 1, The New Rules. In Chapter 1, Voss introduces readers to his experience and insights into negotiation, beginning with a dramatic anecdote that sets the stage for the new rules of negotiation he advocates. The chapter opens with Voss recounting a tense role-playing situation at Harvard Law School, where he was pitted against top negotiation professors. Despite feeling outmatched, Voss relies on his experience as an FBI hostage negotiator to outmaneuver his opponents using techniques that differ significantly from the traditional academic approach to negotiation. The chapter highlights Voss's background, including his time as the lead international kidnapping negotiator for the FBI. He discusses how his experiences shaped his understanding of negotiation as more than just a rational, logical process, but as a deeply psychological interaction driven by human emotions. Voss contrasts his experiential learning with the academic, theory-based approach of Harvard, which he found lacking in practical effectiveness when dealing with real-life situations involving high stakes and intense emotions. Voss's encounter with the Harvard professors serves as a turning point in the chapter. He describes how he was challenged to negotiate for his fictional son's life in a simulated kidnapping scenario. Instead of following the expected negotiation script, Voss uses open-ended questions, particularly the calibrated question, "How am I supposed to do that?" This question, which seems simple, forces the other party to think and respond in a way that reveals their constraints and vulnerabilities. Voss demonstrates how this tactic shifts the power dynamic, giving him control of the negotiation despite being in a seemingly weaker position. The chapter emphasizes that negotiation is not about winning or losing but about effective communication and influence. Voss argues that traditional negotiation tactics, like those taught at Harvard, often overlook the emotional and psychological aspects of human interaction. Instead, he introduces the concept of tactical empathy, which involves understanding and addressing the emotions and perspectives of the other party to create trust and rapport. Voss also touches on the history of negotiation and its evolution, particularly in law enforcement. He explains how traditional negotiation methods, focused on logic and problem-solving, often fail in high-pressure situations where emotions run high. Voss's experience in hostage negotiations, where lives are at stake, taught him that the key to successful negotiation lies in understanding and managing emotions rather than simply presenting logical arguments. The chapter concludes with Voss asserting that the principles and techniques he developed and refined during his time with the FBI are not only applicable in hostage situations but are also highly effective in everyday negotiations. Whether negotiating a business deal, a salary, or a personal relationship, understanding the psychological dynamics at play is crucial to achieving desired outcomes. Voss sets the stage for the rest of the book by outlining the importance of these new rules of negotiation, which prioritize emotional intelligence, calibrated questioning, and tactical empathy over traditional methods. He promises to delve deeper into these concepts in the following chapters, providing readers with practical tools and strategies to become more effective negotiators in any situation. Chapter 2, Be a Mirror. Chapter 2 delves into the first critical technique that Chris Voss introduces: mirroring. This method, rooted in psychological research, is a simple yet powerful tool for establishing rapport and trust during negotiations. The chapter begins with a vivid recounting of one of Voss's first hostage negotiations, which occurred during a tense bank robbery in Brooklyn. This incident, which took place early in Voss's career, serves as a backdrop for discussing the importance of mirroring and other communication strategies that can diffuse tension and create a connection between negotiators. Voss explains that mirroring is the act of repeating the last 3 words, or the critical 1 to 3 words, of what someone has just said. This technique signals to the other person that you are listening and engaged, and it subtly encourages them to elaborate on their thoughts without feeling pressured. In the bank robbery scenario, Voss used mirroring to gather more information from the hostage-taker, which allowed him to better understand the situation and eventually negotiate a peaceful resolution. The technique is effective because it appeals to the human tendency to feel comfortable with those who are similar to us. By mirroring the other person's language, tone, and even body language, you make them feel heard and understood, which lowers their defenses. Voss points out that this is especially important in high-stakes negotiations where emotions are running high, as it can help to calm the situation and prevent escalation. Voss contrasts mirroring with the more aggressive and confrontational approaches that are often taught in traditional negotiation courses. While these methods might work in certain contexts, they can also backfire by putting the other party on the defensive. In contrast, mirroring is a non-threatening way to keep the conversation going, gather information, and guide the negotiation in a favorable direction. The chapter also introduces the concept of labeling, which involves identifying and acknowledging the other person's feelings. Voss describes how labeling, combined with mirroring, can be used to create what he calls tactical empathy. By labeling the emotions that the other party is experiencing, for example, "It sounds like you're really frustrated," you validate their feelings and make them feel understood. This builds trust and opens the door to more productive negotiations. Voss emphasizes that tactical empathy is not about agreeing with the other person's position or caving to their demands. Rather, it's about understanding their perspective and using that understanding to steer the negotiation. This approach can lead to more collaborative and mutually beneficial outcomes, as it focuses on addressing the underlying needs and emotions of both parties rather than just the surface-level issues. To illustrate the effectiveness of these techniques, Voss shares several real-world examples from his career, including negotiations with kidnappers, terrorists, and business executives. In each case, the combination of mirroring and labeling helped Voss to build rapport, gather critical information, and influence the outcome in his favor. These stories underscore the importance of mastering these seemingly simple techniques, which can have a profound impact on the success of any negotiation. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to practice mirroring and labeling in their everyday interactions. Voss suggests that these techniques can be used not just in formal negotiations but in any situation where you need to influence someone or build a connection, whether it's with a colleague, a customer, or a family member. By mastering these skills, you can become a more effective communicator and negotiator, capable of achieving your goals while maintaining positive relationships with others. Chapter 3. Don't Feel Their Pain. Label it. Chapter 3 focuses on the concept of tactical empathy and introduces the powerful technique of labeling. Tactical empathy is the ability to understand the feelings and mindset of another person in real time, and to communicate that understanding to them. Voss argues that labeling emotions is a crucial step in establishing this kind of empathy, as it helps to diffuse negative emotions and build trust during negotiations. The chapter begins with a story about a negotiation that took place during a kidnapping in Haiti. Voss was called in to negotiate the release of a young boy who had been taken hostage. The boy's father, who was desperate and emotional, initially struggled to communicate effectively with the kidnappers. Voss used labeling to help the father articulate his emotions and focus on the negotiation, rather than being overwhelmed by fear and anxiety. This allowed Voss to guide the conversation and eventually secure the boy's safe release. Labeling involves identifying and naming the emotions that the other person is experiencing. For example, if someone is expressing frustration, you might say, "It sounds like you're really frustrated." This simple act of acknowledgement can have a powerful impact, as it shows the other person that you are listening and that you understand their feelings. This validation can help to reduce the intensity of negative emotions and create a more constructive dialogue. Voss explains that labeling is particularly effective because it interrupts the other person's emotional response and forces them to engage their rational brain. When you label an emotion, the other person is likely to pause and consider whether the label is accurate. This moment of reflection can help to break the cycle of emotional escalation and create an opportunity for more rational discussion. The chapter also discusses the importance of using the right tone when labeling emotions. Voss emphasizes that labels should be delivered in a calm, neutral tone, without judgment or condescension. The goal is to convey empathy and understanding, not to provoke or challenge the other person. Voss likens the ideal tone to that of a late-night radio DJ, smooth, calming, and non-threatening. Voss provides several examples of how labeling can be used in different negotiation scenarios, from hostage situations to business deals. In each case, labeling helped to create a more open and honest dialogue, which in turn led to better outcomes. Voss also notes that labeling is not limited to negative emotions. It can be used to reinforce positive emotions as well, which can help to build momentum and cooperation in a negotiation. One of the key insights in this chapter is the idea that you don't have to agree with someone's position to acknowledge their emotions. By labeling emotions, you are not conceding to the other person's demands or validating their viewpoint. You are simply recognizing their feelings. This distinction is important because it allows you to maintain your position while still building rapport and trust with the other party. The chapter concludes with practical advice on how to incorporate labeling into your everyday interactions. Voss encourages readers to practice labeling emotions in low-stakes situations, such as casual conversations with friends or family members. This will help to build confidence and fluency in the technique, making it easier to use in high-pressure negotiations. Chapter 4: Beware, Yes, Master, No. In Chapter 4, Voss shifts focus to the dynamics of yes and no in negotiations, revealing that contrary to popular belief, no is often the most powerful word in a negotiator's arsenal. He explains that while many people strive to get the other party to say yes, this approach can be misleading and even counterproductive. Instead, Voss advocates mastering no as a tool to uncover the true issues at stake and move the negotiation forward. The chapter opens with an example from Voss's experience negotiating with a telecommunications executive over the release of hostages in the Philippines. The executive was determined to get the kidnappers to say yes to a deal, but Voss knew that focusing on yes would not yield the desired outcome. Instead, Voss encouraged the executive to get the kidnappers to say no by reframing the questions in a way that allowed them to assert control. This approach ultimately led to the release of the hostages. Voss explains that no is not a rejection but a decision, and it can be the starting point for a deeper conversation. When people say no, they often feel safer and more in control, which makes them more willing to engage in dialogue. Voss suggests that instead of pushing for yes, negotiators should ask questions that invite the other party to say no, such as, "Is this a bad time to talk?" Or, "Are you against this proposal?" These questions allow the other party to assert their boundaries and clarify their position, which can lead to a more productive negotiation. The chapter also explores the psychological reasons why no is so powerful. Voss explains that no protects people from making decisions that might be harmful or risky. It allows them to feel secure in their choices and prevents them from feeling pressured or manipulated. By giving the other party the opportunity to say no, you respect their autonomy and create a sense of safety in the negotiation. Voss contrasts this approach with the traditional focus on getting to yes. He argues that the pursuit of yes can lead to superficial agreements that don't address the underlying issues. When people say yes, they might be doing so out of politeness or a desire to end the conversation, rather than a genuine commitment to the terms. This can result in agreements that are later reneged on or poorly implemented. The chapter also introduces the concept of the no-oriented question, which is designed to provoke a no response in order to uncover hidden objections and concerns. Voss provides several examples of how to use this technique in different contexts, from business negotiations to personal relationships. For instance, instead of asking, "Do you agree with this proposal?" you might ask, "Do you disagree with this proposal?" This subtle shift in wording can elicit a more honest and thoughtful response. Voss also touches on the importance of setting boundaries in negotiations. By mastering no, you can protect your interests and avoid making concessions that you'll later regret. He encourages readers to embrace no as a tool for exploring the real issues at hand, rather than as a sign of failure or rejection. The chapter concludes with practical advice on how to use no to your advantage in negotiations. Voss suggests practicing no-oriented questions in everyday conversations to build confidence and skill. He also recommends being patient and persistent, as it can take time to move from no to a mutually beneficial agreement. Chapter 5. Trigger the two words that immediately transform any negotiation. Chapter 5 introduces the concept of the "that's right" moment, which Chris Voss identifies as a critical turning point in any negotiation. This chapter focuses on how to achieve this moment by guiding your counterpart to feel truly understood and affirmed in their perspective, which in turn opens the door to collaboration and agreement. Voss begins the chapter with a story about negotiating the release of 3 hostages taken by the Abu Sayyaf group in the Philippines. The negotiation was going poorly, with the kidnappers refusing to budge from their demands. Voss realized that the key to breaking the deadlock was to get the kidnappers to say, "That's right," thereby acknowledging that they felt understood and respected. By summarizing the kidnappers' concerns and reframing the situation, Voss was able to elicit the crucial, "That's right," response, which marked a significant shift in the negotiation dynamics. The "that's right" moment is powerful because it signifies that the other party feels their worldview has been validated. Voss explains that people are more likely to agree to a proposal when they believe that their thoughts, feelings, and concerns have been accurately acknowledged. This is not the same as agreeing with them, but rather about demonstrating empathy and understanding. The chapter outlines several strategies for achieving the "that's right" moment. One key technique is the use of summary. By summarizing what the other person has said, you show that you are actively listening and that you have grasped the essence of their position. This summary should be concise and focus on the most important points, delivered in a way that resonates with the other party's perspective. Voss emphasizes that the summary should be free of judgment or interpretation. The goal is not to agree or disagree but simply to reflect back what the other person has communicated. This allows them to feel heard and understood, which can significantly lower their defenses and make them more open to compromise. Another important technique discussed in the chapter is the use of calibrated questions. These are open-ended questions that prompt the other party to think deeply about their position and to provide more information. Questions like, "What makes you say that?" or "How does that fit with what you said earlier?" can help to clarify the other party's stance and reveal underlying concerns or motivations. Voss also touches on the importance of tone and delivery in achieving the "that's right" moment. He advises negotiators to use a calm, non-confrontational tone that conveys respect and sincerity. This is crucial because even the most well-crafted summary or question can backfire if delivered in a way that seems aggressive or insincere. The chapter includes examples from both Voss's FBI career and his work as a business consultant to illustrate how these techniques can be applied in different contexts. In one example, Voss describes how a corporate client was able to turn around a contentious negotiation by using the "that's right" strategy to validate the other party's concerns. This approach not only diffused the tension but also led to a more favorable outcome for both sides. Voss concludes the chapter by reinforcing the idea that the "that's right" moment is a game-changer in negotiations. It signals that you have successfully connected with the other party on a deep, emotional level, which is the foundation for any successful negotiation. By focusing on understanding and validating the other person's perspective, you can transform even the most difficult negotiations into opportunities for collaboration and mutual gain. Chapter 6: Bend Their Reality. Chapter 6 explores how to bend their reality by strategically framing the terms of negotiation to guide the other party toward the outcome you desire. Chris Voss explains that while people are often driven by the desire for fairness, their perception of fairness is subjective and can be influenced by how information is presented. This chapter provides tools for shaping the negotiation in a way that makes your offer seem not only fair but also the best possible option. Voss begins with a story from his time as an FBI hostage negotiator, where he had to negotiate the release of hostages in Ecuador. The kidnappers were demanding an exorbitant ransom, and Voss knew that simply offering a counter amount wouldn't be effective. Instead, he employed tactics that bent the kidnappers' perception of reality, making them see the ransom amount he proposed as the most reasonable and fair option available. This approach ultimately led to the safe release of the hostages at a fraction of the initial demand. A key concept in this chapter is the idea of anchoring emotions. Voss explains that when you present a number or an offer, you are not just offering a figure, you are setting an emotional anchor that the other party will compare everything else against. By strategically choosing this anchor, you can influence the other party's perception of what is fair or reasonable. For example, if you want to sell a car for $10,000, you might start by mentioning that similar cars are selling for $12,000 or more. This higher number serves as an emotional anchor, making your $10,000 price seem like a good deal in comparison. Voss emphasizes that the anchor should be high but not so high that it seems ridiculous or undermines your credibility. The chapter also discusses the importance of deadlines and the use of time to bend reality. Voss explains that deadlines create a sense of urgency and can compel the other party to make a decision more quickly. However, deadlines should be used carefully, as an arbitrary or unrealistic deadline can backfire and create resistance. Instead, Voss suggests setting deadlines that are framed as opportunities rather than threats, encouraging the other party to act in their own best interest. Another technique Voss introduces is the use of loss aversion to influence decision-making. People are more motivated to avoid losses than to achieve gains, so framing an offer in terms of what the other party stands to lose rather than what they might gain can be a powerful motivator. For example, instead of saying, "If you accept this offer, you'll gain X," you might say, "If you don't accept this offer, you stand to lose Y." This shifts the focus from potential benefits to potential losses, which can be more compelling. Voss also discusses the concept of the illusion of control, where you guide the other party to believe that they are in control of the negotiation. This can be done by asking calibrated questions that prompt them to propose solutions or by giving them the power to make decisions within a framework that you have set. This approach not only makes the other party feel empowered but also increases the likelihood that they will agree to terms that are favorable to you. The chapter concludes with a discussion of fairness, a concept that is central to many negotiations. Voss explains that people's sense of fairness can be highly subjective and influenced by how information is presented. He advises negotiators to use fairness to their advantage by framing their offers in a way that appeals to the other party's desire for a fair deal. This can involve highlighting the fairness of your offer compared to market standards, emphasizing the fairness of your behavior during the negotiation, or even using fairness as a way to call out the other party's unreasonable demands. By mastering the techniques outlined in Chapter 6, negotiators can effectively bend the other party's reality, making their proposals not only acceptable but desirable. Voss emphasizes that these strategies are not about deception or manipulation but about guiding the negotiation in a way that aligns both parties' interests and leads to a successful outcome. Chapter 7: Create the illusion of control. In Chapter 7, Voss introduces the concept of creating the illusion of control in negotiations. This technique involves asking carefully calibrated questions that give the other party the sense that they are in control of the conversation, while in reality, you are guiding them toward the outcome you want. The chapter emphasizes the importance of how questions are framed and the psychological impact they have on the negotiation process. Voss opens the chapter with an anecdote about negotiating with a kidnapper who had taken hostages in the Philippines. The situation was tense, and the kidnapper was highly volatile. Voss knew that directly challenging the kidnapper's demands could escalate the situation, so he instead used calibrated questions to subtly steer the conversation. By asking the right questions, Voss was able to give the kidnapper the illusion of control, which helped to defuse the situation and eventually led to the hostage's release. The core idea behind creating the illusion of control is that people are more likely to be cooperative and agreeable when they feel that they are in charge of the conversation. This approach contrasts with traditional negotiation tactics that focus on dominance and persuasion. Instead of trying to convince the other party to accept your terms, you ask questions that lead them to come up with the answers you want. One of the key techniques discussed in the chapter is the use of how and what questions. These questions are open-ended and require the other party to think and provide detailed responses. For example, instead of asking, "Can you do this?" which might provoke a defensive response, you could ask, "How do you propose we move forward from here?" Or, "What are the obstacles we need to address to reach an agreement?" These questions make the other party feel involved in the problem-solving process, and less like they are being cornered into making a decision. Voss emphasizes that the power of calibrated questions lies in their ability to shift the focus away from you and onto the other party. This not only reduces the likelihood of resistance but also helps to uncover valuable information that can be used to your advantage. By framing your questions carefully, you can guide the conversation in a way that aligns with your goals while making the other party feel that they are driving the discussion. The chapter also discusses the importance of active listening in creating the illusion of control. Voss explains that listening is not just about hearing what the other person is saying but about understanding their emotions, motivations, and concerns. By listening attentively and responding with thoughtful questions, you can build rapport and trust, which are essential for successful negotiation. Voss introduces the concept of dynamic silence as a tool to enhance the effectiveness of calibrated questions. After asking a question, he advises negotiators to remain silent and let the other party fill the void. This silence can be uncomfortable, prompting the other party to speak more freely and provide additional information. This technique not only gives you more insight into their position but also reinforces the illusion that they are in control of the conversation. Another key point in the chapter is the idea of labeling during the use of calibrated questions. Voss suggests that before asking a question, you can label the other party's emotions or concerns to show that you understand their perspective. For example, you might say, "It seems like you're concerned about the timeline," followed by, "What can we do to address that concern?" This approach demonstrates empathy and makes the other party more likely to engage in a productive discussion. The chapter concludes with practical advice on how to use the illusion of control in various negotiation scenarios. Voss emphasizes that this technique is not about manipulating the other party but about guiding the conversation in a way that leads to mutually beneficial outcomes. By mastering the art of calibrated questioning, you can create an environment where the other party feels respected and in control, while still steering the negotiation toward your desired outcome. Chapter 8: Guarantee Execution. Chapter 8 focuses on ensuring that agreements reached during negotiations are actually implemented, a process Chris Voss refers to as guaranteeing execution. This chapter addresses the challenge of getting the other party to follow through on their commitments, and provides strategies to minimize the risk of misunderstandings or reneging on deals. Voss begins the chapter with a story from his time as an FBI negotiator, where he had to secure the release of hostages in Haiti. The negotiation was successful, and the hostages were freed, but Voss realized that the real challenge was ensuring that the deal was executed as agreed. The kidnappers were known to break promises, so Voss had to take extra steps to guarantee that the release went smoothly and that the hostages were not harmed during the handover. The first key concept Voss introduces is the importance of asking how questions to ensure that the other party has a clear plan for implementing the agreement. By asking questions like, "How will you make sure this gets done?" or "What steps will you take to follow through on this?" you force the other party to think through the logistics of execution. This not only helps to clarify the terms of the agreement, but also makes the other party feel more accountable for their commitments. Voss also emphasizes the role of no-oriented questions in securing commitment. These are questions that are designed to provoke a no response, which paradoxically can lead to greater commitment. For example, asking, "Is there anything that would prevent you from following through on this?" prompts the other party to consider potential obstacles and address them before they become issues. This approach reduces the likelihood of last-minute problems or excuses. Another strategy discussed in the chapter is the importance of using deadlines effectively. Voss explains that deadlines create a sense of urgency and can help to ensure that the other party prioritizes the execution of the agreement. However, he cautions against using arbitrary or unrealistic deadlines, as these can backfire and lead to non-compliance. Instead, Voss suggests setting deadlines that are tied to specific milestones or events, which makes them more meaningful and easier to enforce. Voss also introduces the concept of the 3 yes as a tool for guaranteeing execution. The first yes is the commitment to the agreement itself, the second yes is the affirmation of the plan to execute the agreement, and the third yes is the confirmation that the other party has the resources and authority to carry out the plan. By securing all 3 yes, you increase the likelihood that the other party will follow through on their commitments. The chapter also discusses the importance of building trust during the negotiation process to ensure execution. Voss explains that trust is built through transparency, consistency, and by demonstrating a genuine interest in the other party's success. When the other party believes that you are acting in good faith and that the agreement is mutually beneficial, they are more likely to honor their commitments. Voss provides several examples from both his FBI career and his work as a business consultant to illustrate how these techniques can be applied in different contexts. In one case, a corporate client was able to secure a major contract by using the 3 yes strategy to ensure that the other party was fully committed to the deal. In another example, Voss describes how he used calibrated questions and deadlines to keep a negotiation on track and prevent the other party from backing out at the last minute. The chapter concludes with practical advice on how to implement these strategies in your own negotiations. Voss encourages readers to practice asking how and no-oriented questions to build their skills and confidence. He also suggests using role-play scenarios to rehearse different negotiation situations and to prepare for potential challenges. Overall, Chapter 8 provides a comprehensive guide to ensuring that agreements reached in negotiations are actually carried out. By focusing on execution from the outset and using the strategies outlined in this chapter, you can reduce the risk of misunderstandings, prevent last-minute issues, and increase the likelihood of successful outcomes in your negotiations. Chapter 9 Bargain Hard. Chapter 9 delves into the art of haggling, which Voss refers to as bargaining hard. This chapter provides a step-by-step approach to negotiating the final terms of a deal, with a focus on achieving the best possible outcome while maintaining a positive relationship with the other party. Voss begins by discussing the importance of preparation before entering the bargaining phase. He emphasizes that successful bargaining requires a clear understanding of your own goals, the other party's goals, and the dynamics of the negotiation. Voss suggests using a tool called the negotiation one-sheet, which helps you to organize your thoughts, identify your priorities, and anticipate the other party's moves. This preparation is crucial because it allows you to stay focused and avoid being swayed by emotions or unexpected developments during the negotiation. The chapter introduces the Ackerman model, a bargaining strategy that Voss describes as the most effective method for negotiating price. The Ackerman model involves setting a target price, the price you ideally want, identifying your maximum acceptable price, the most you're willing to pay or the least you're willing to accept, and then making a series of calculated offers that bring you closer to your target price. The key to this model is the incremental nature of the offers, which are designed to signal to the other party that you are nearing your limit, even if you are not. The Ackerman model operates in the following steps. 1. Set your target price. Determine the price you ideally want to achieve. 2. Set your first offer at 65% of your target price. This lowball offer is intended to anchor the negotiation and set the stage for the next steps. 3. Calculate 3 raises of decreasing increments. The idea is to make small increases that gradually bring you closer to your target price. For example, your first raise might bring you to 80% of your target price, the second to 90%, and the third to 95%. 4. Use empathy and different, no-oriented questions to get the other party to counter before you increase your offer. This helps to manage the other party's expectations and prevent them from becoming frustrated. 5. At 100% of your target price, use the "that's right" technique to reinforce the other party's understanding that this is your final offer. Voss emphasizes that the Ackerman model is effective because it combines logic with psychological tactics, such as the use of calibrated questions and empathy, to guide the other party toward your desired outcome. By making small, incremental offers, you create the impression that you are reaching your limit, which can pressure the other party into agreeing to your terms. The chapter also discusses the importance of maintaining a collaborative and respectful tone during the bargaining process. Voss explains that even when bargaining hard, it's essential to keep the negotiation focused on solving problems rather than winning or losing. By framing the negotiation as a joint effort to reach a fair agreement, you can reduce the risk of conflict and build a positive relationship with the other party. Voss provides several real-world examples of how the Ackerman model has been used successfully in different contexts, from business negotiations to hostage situations. In one example, Voss describes how a corporate client was able to negotiate a major contract by using the Ackerman model to methodically work toward their target price. The client's careful preparation and strategic use of incremental offers helped them to secure a deal that was significantly better than their initial expectations. The chapter concludes with practical advice on how to apply the Ackerman model in your own negotiations. Voss encourages readers to practice the model in low-stakes situations to build confidence and refine their technique. He also suggests using role-playing exercises to simulate different bargaining scenarios and prepare for potential challenges. Chapter 10. Find the Black Swan. In the final chapter of the book, Voss introduces the concept of the black swan, a term used to describe unexpected pieces of information that, once revealed, can change the entire course of a negotiation. This chapter is about uncovering these hidden factors and using them to create breakthroughs in difficult negotiations. Voss begins the chapter by explaining that black swans are often the key to achieving extraordinary results in negotiations. These are the unknown unknowns, the pieces of critical information that the other party has not disclosed or that you have not yet discovered. Finding a black swan can give you a significant advantage because it can change the dynamics of the negotiation and open up new possibilities for agreement. The chapter provides several examples from Voss's career to illustrate how black swans can be identified and leveraged. In one example, Voss recounts a negotiation with a kidnapping group in the Philippines. The kidnappers were demanding a ransom that was far beyond what the victim's family could afford. However, through careful questioning and observation, Voss uncovered a black swan. The kidnappers were under pressure from their superiors to close the deal quickly. This information allowed Voss to negotiate a much lower ransom and secure the release of the hostage. Voss emphasizes that finding black swans requires a mindset of curiosity and openness. Negotiators must be willing to ask questions, listen carefully, and observe the other party's behavior to uncover the hidden factors that could influence the outcome. He suggests that negotiators should approach every negotiation with the assumption that there are unknowns that need to be discovered and that these unknowns could hold the key to success. The chapter also discusses the importance of creating an environment where the other party feels safe to reveal black swans. Voss explains that building rapport, demonstrating empathy, and using calibrated questions are essential for encouraging the other party to disclose information that they might otherwise withhold. By creating a sense of trust and mutual respect, you increase the likelihood that the other party will share the critical details that can change the course of the negotiation. Another key point in the chapter is the idea of reframing the negotiation to incorporate the black swan once it has been discovered. Voss explains that once you have uncovered a black swan, you can use it to reshape the negotiation and guide the other party toward a more favorable outcome. This might involve adjusting your strategy, making new offers, or proposing alternative solutions that take the black swan into account. The chapter concludes with a discussion of the ethical considerations involved in using black swans in negotiations. Voss emphasizes that while uncovering and leveraging black swans can give you a significant advantage, it's important to use this information responsibly, and in a way that maintains the integrity of the negotiation. He advises negotiators to focus on creating win-win outcomes that benefit both parties rather than using black swans to manipulate or exploit the other party. Voss ends the book by encouraging readers to adopt the mindset of a black swan hunter, always looking for the hidden information that can transform a negotiation. He suggests that by embracing this approach, negotiators can achieve extraordinary results in even the most challenging situations. Thank you for joining our quest for infinite growth. If you enjoyed this, please like and follow Infinite Self-Improvement on all social media and podcasts. We'll see you soon, but until then, remember that your potential is infinite.